Okay, let's dive into this. Look, if you're deploying venture capital or institutional funds in the tech sector right now, you are already acutely aware of a massive looming existential threat, right? The AI energy deficit. The world simply doesn't have enough cheap, clean, reliable power to actually feed this artificial intelligence revolution. But today, we're looking at a highly asymmetrical solution. Welcome to this explainer. Think of this as your strategic advisory brief, where we're going to evaluate a truly fascinating frontier market opportunity, Nepal.
Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the AI energy deficit, Nepal's strategic asset, the OPEX advantage, some pro-FDI catalysts, evaluating regulatory risks, and finally, the final investment verdict.
So, part one, the AI energy deficit as a global bottleneck. To really grasp this micro opportunity, we first got to ground ourselves in the core macroeconomic bottleneck. And to do that, just consider the new reality of tech economics straight from NVIDIA's CEO, Jensen Huang. He basically pointed out that if you pay your software engineers $500,000 a year, and at the end of that year they haven't spent at least another $250,000 running AI, well, you'd be deeply alarmed. The compute cost of running AI is scaling so incredibly fast that it's literally rivaling the massive human cost of building it.
Which brings us to the sheer scale of the total addressable market. Listen to this number, $660 billion. That's what companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta are committing this year alone, just on the infrastructure to run AI. We're talking data centers, chips, cooling systems, and above all else, electricity. But here's the catch. The global grid is totally bottlenecked. We're facing a severe green electricity deficit at the exact moment this demand is absolutely skyrocketing.
All right, moving to part two, Nepal's strategic asset, gravity-powered compute. And this brilliantly illustrates a massive geographical advantage, hidden right up in the Himalayas. Nepal basically sits on one of the largest untapped clean energy reserves on the planet. Just look at the sheer scale here. 83,000 megawatts of total hydropower potential. 43,000 of that is economically feasible to develop right now. Yet they've currently developed less than 4,000 megawatts. So Nepal is utilizing less than 1/10 of its realistic generating capacity. It's wild. This is gravity-powered, totally carbon-free energy just sitting in rivers, absolutely ready to be scaled.
Which leads us into part three, the OPEX advantage, focusing on baseload power and natural cooling.
For infrastructure funds, you know the deal. The yield on an AI data center is won and lost on operational expenditure, or OPEX. And when we compare energy sources, hydropower commands a massive, massive premium over things like solar and wind. Why? Because solar and wind are intermittent. They require incredibly costly battery storage just to maintain continuous operations. But an AI data center running massive training models, it needs to operate 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, no exceptions. Nepal's hydropower provides that baseload power. It runs at night. It runs in the dead of winter. It provides that exact consistency that these energy-hungry data centers absolutely require.
And then there's the climate advantage. Typically, cooling systems eat up anywhere from 30 to 40% of a standard data center's running costs. I mean, it's a huge OPEX line item. However, Nepal's natural, ambient Himalayan climate dramatically reduces the energy you actually need to keep those servers from overheating. That natural cooling slashes operational costs right off the top, making every single megawatt of electricity go much, much further. It's built-in efficiency.
Furthermore, there's a really fascinating geopolitical arbitrage at play here. Currently, Nepal generates surplus electricity that it actually struggles to fully export, simply because the physical transmission lines into India aren't big enough yet. But think about this. If a data center is built inside Nepal, it consumes that surplus domestically. You completely bypass the need for those physical transit grids. Nepal can directly export global compute power and tap into that massive AI revenue stream without sitting around waiting on international transmission negotiations. It's a total game changer. Okay, let's shift gears to part four, pro-FDI catalysts. Why look at this now?
Let's move to and see how this builds, because in venture capital, market timing is absolutely everything. We are seeing a rapid succession of legislative and political catalysts that are building a super compelling timeline for early entry capital. In January 2025, the tech sector opened to 100% foreign direct investment, finally removing those old, stubborn restrictions. By August 2025, a formal national AI policy was officially approved. Then, in February 2026, we saw the first ever Nepal-India Tech Forum take place in New Delhi. And following the March 2026 election, a new pro-digital government took power, placing digital infrastructure at the absolute dead center of its economic vision. So the political will is really aligning with the market need here.
But of course, we need Part 5, due diligence, evaluating the regulatory risks. Now we've got to pivot to a sober risk assessment. Because let's be real, ambition on paper definitely does not always equal execution on the ground. And this is the critical due diligence question every single investor has to ask. Is the regulatory framework actually ready for institutional capital? The ambition is clearly there, but are the systemic frameworks genuinely prepared to absorb and, more importantly, protect billions in institutional capital? Well, the honest answer right now highlights a pretty significant implementation gap. Currently, Nepal is missing the necessary zoning laws, environmental standards, and water use regulations specific to these massive hyperscale data centers. To give you an example, for a collaborative data center project in Chabar, Kathmandu, the facility was actually listed simply as a container block just to bypass the lack of planning regulations. Now, for institutional investors who absolutely require strict compliance and legal certainty, workarounds like that container block loophole are a glaring red flag, and that's something that absolutely must be resolved. Resolving this is crucial, especially because of Nepal's current macroeconomic fragility. Right now, remittances from citizens performing hard labor abroad make up a staggering 26.9% of Nepal's total GDP. I mean, they are quite literally exporting their human capital. But if they can successfully execute on this domestic tech infrastructure, they could transition to exporting compute power instead. This would allow them to retain their best, most ambitious engineering talent domestically, completely reversing that brain drain. Finally, Part 6, the final investment verdict. We're looking at a profound turning point for the nation's entire economic structure. So the crucial point is this. The opportunity here is immense, but the execution steps are completely binary. Step 1. Nepal urgently needs to finalize its hydropower and transmission infrastructure, and that has to include storage-type plants for the dry season. Step 2, it must proactively build a robust, institutional-grade regulatory framework. You have to build the rules first and then go court those global data center tenants. But those big tech companies spending $660 billion this year, they're looking for exactly what Nepal has: clean power and natural cooling. But capital always goes where it's safe and well-regulated. So over the next 2 to 4 years, will Nepal emerge as a true regional AI powerhouse, or will it miss its greatest structural moment? That is the billion-dollar question for investors watching this frontier market. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I definitely encourage you to keep a very close eye on how this infrastructure play develops.